Praise the Lord, brothers and sisters. We will have the third talk for the retreats. This talk will be taken up by Professor Anton Meemana. I don't think I have to introduce anything more. I will leave it up to Professor to introduce himself and talk about. So, brothers and sisters, I will give over the podium to Professor Anton Meemana.
Very good afternoon unto you all. Shall I speak from here or shall I go down? Which is better for you? Is that so? So if I fall down, you have to catch me, right? You need to catch me. If you don't, that means you are not a very good Christian, right? Right? You are not trying to save people who are falling down. See? So you have a very good litmus test. Now, our topic this afternoon is, you have an idea about our topic today, right? What is it? About the inner healing or the interior healing or healing of the psyche. There is another term, healing of the psyche does not mean here the modern meaning of the English word. When people hear about psyche, they think of ghosts, right? And vampires and evil spirits, right? These psychic powers. No. Psyche meant originally your soul, your interiority. Now, first thing you need to understand, in this world, no one had a perfect childhood. Nobody had a perfect childhood in this earth, right? And no one had a perfect mother or father or uncle or auntie or teacher or parish priest. Is it not the case? Our parents had great qualities indeed, but they also had a lot of shortcomings, inadequacies, right? They also had a lot of their own frustration, disappointments. Sometimes as children we would receive those frustrations. So keep in your mind, no one had a perfect childhood. No one had a perfect mother, perfect father, perfect teacher, or a catechist, or a parish priest, etc. Now we have two tendencies here. One, some people tend to exaggerate about their childhoods. Some people would say, well, I had a perfect childhood. I never had problems. My parents were like, saintly figures, etc. Which is not true psychologically. That person is dramatizing or exaggerating. And the other end is some people minimize it. Some exaggerate it, whatever they have received. Some tend to minimize it. Minimization happens like this. Some people would say like this, I have never experienced the love of my parents. Some would say, I have never experienced the love of my mother or father, which is also not true. Scientifically, why? Say for an example, if you believe that, if you are of the opinion that you had not adequately experienced the love of your parents, you cannot be here. Because you see, psychologists have discovered when a child is born into this world, let's say out of mother's womb, let's say all the doctors and nurses and the attendants would leave the child. Let's say they will place the child on a table and everybody will simply leave the place. What would happen to the child? The child would cry and cry and cry. Not because the child is hungry, not because child wants to drink something. None of those things. Child would eventually die to his or her death. Because when a child is born to this world, the first thing, the immediate thing the child is in need of is touch, human touch. Caresses, embrace, kisses, hugs, etc. That human warmth is the most important thing when a child is born into this world, more than milk, or what do you feed now with children, Coca-Cola or whatnot, right? No, depending on the latest beverage you have. But it's not a matter of nourishment. It's a matter of touch, the warmth. Now, if you say you have never experienced the love of your parents, if it is true, how come you are here? It should be your ghost, right? How come you are here? The very fact we are still alive, right? We are still living and breathing indicates that somehow we have experienced some sort of love, some amount of love, care and affection and touch from our parents, right? So therefore we should also not minimize our childhood problems. Of course, there is a thing like this. Having said that, there is a thing like this, which is there are different degrees to the love and the affection and appreciation we have experienced from our parents, which is true. There are people who have experienced more love, more care and more attention, appreciation than other children. That's true. But you cannot say it's zero. You cannot say, I have never ever experienced the love of my parents. In the absence of parents, there was someone, right? Let's say your mother and father was very busy. They were very busy with their work and with their business. But there may have been a substitute mother or father in the person of grandfather, grandmother or an auntie or uncle or someone, right? So therefore, it's impossible for us to survive in this world without experiencing some amount of love and care and appreciation. So why I'm mentioning this, we need to avoid these two extremes, not to dramatize, not to exaggerate our childhood experiences, and the other extreme is to minimize it, right, or to belittle it. The important thing is, when it comes to inner healing, is this: you need to be in touch with the truth about your past. Truth hurts before it liberates you. Truth hurts before it heals you or sets you free. Truth about oneself. The unvarnished, naked truth about yourself, your childhood. So that's very important, right? Without exaggerating or without kind of belittling it, what is the truth about me? Especially when it comes to all the injustices we have experienced, all the frustrations we had, the disappointments, the losses, right? And also rejections, and also if your parents played some sort of a favoritism, or your teachers, all those negative experiences, if you remember them, some of them, if you don't remember, you don't need to kind of torture yourself. Whatever you remember at this stage in your life, at this juncture in your life, you need to be first aware about them, and you need to become honest about them. You see, for healing, inner healing, the most important factor is radical honesty. Radical, the word, English word radical, comes from a Latin word radix. R-A-D-I-X. Radix means in Latin roots. Roots, right? That means from the bottom of your heart, you need to be honest about yourself. Healing comes with radical honesty, right? Honesty about what had happened to you, as well as what you have done unto others. Sometimes we also experience this, especially in Asian countries, especially in South Asia. Some people experience brokenness due to their skin color sometime. Is it not the case? People would compare. Let's say you had someone in the family who had a fair skin and yours was a little bit dark. And people would compare. And people would appreciate more which skin color would be appreciated by people in our country? Is it the dark? No, of course. So for a child, that can be traumatic. The child will experience that my brother or sister who has a fairer skin is appreciated more than me or loved more than me. Right? I also had a similar experience as a child. Right? We all have. It can be a source of inner wounds. Sometimes one's caste. We still have a caste system, in Sri Lankan caste system. We have in India, you have basically only 4 castes. In Sri Lanka, we have major 21 castes, right? And there are higher castes and the lower castes, right? In fact, I don't know why these lower caste people are here. What they are doing, I don't understand. Right? So because of the caste, people experience woundedness. People would be very much discriminated. And also, because of your religion, maybe in some parts of the country, because of if you have a minority religion, sometimes people will ridicule, make criticism, make fun out of whatever you believe in, etc. Religion could be a source of woundedness, right? Caste, skin color, and the profession of your parents, it could also be. The profession or the occupation of your father especially can also be. Or in your family, if you had let's say you had a brother who was a drug addict, or you had an uncle who was an alcoholic, right? Or who had let's say an extramarital affair, whatever, that can also be for children a source of inner woundedness, right? So all these injustices we undergo as children, especially as children, what we do usually, now you have to become aware about this, we repress them. Repress means when we experience something so painful, we can't bear the pain, we tend to forget it or set it aside. So that is the meaning of repression. As adults, we suppress. Suppression means you do it consciously. Let's say you were hurt by your boss, right? In your workplace, the boss said something very nasty. You were deeply hurt by that, even though that remark, is unfounded. You don't deserve it. You were hurt. What you do, you try to kind of forget it, kind of try to set it aside. You are doing it consciously because you are an adult now. Children do it unconsciously, right? Without any clear purpose. So that is called repression. As adults, we suppress, right? Why? Because it's painful. What happened to me as a child or as an adult is painful. Repression or suppression is a way of moving away or getting out of the pain. We don't like, especially the painful experiences, right? Now, what happened then? If you are avoiding that painful experience, something like this happens, which is, it grows, it begins to have its own life. It would not remain as it is. Let's say if we can measure the size of that painful experience, let's say it's only 1 inch. When your boss hurt you, right? If you can measure, for an example, the size of that painful experience is 1 inch long. Then now you have suppressed it. You are not talking about it. You are not trying to even think about it, right? Because it's painful. What would happen eventually? It will grow. It will become 1 inch, become 2 inches. 2 inches become eventually 4 inches, right? That pain will grow and become bigger and bigger and bigger. Why? Why it is growing? When you do not pay attention to anything in your life, it grows. Anything. That is why those who go to confession, you know this. Let's say you were not able to confess a sin you committed for 30, 40 years. You did not want to confess. But you decided after, let's say, 30 years to confess it. Is it difficult to do it or easy to do it? The longer you take, difficult. Yeah. Because you have to prepare yourself. Because now it has taken a long time. There is a greater inner struggle. Right? Because that experience or that sad experience has acquired its own life. So that is why earlier you repent, even when it comes to a simple thing like confessing your sins. Earlier do it, the better. Right? You don't have to wait until you reach your old age to confess about something you did when you were in your 20s. Right? Earlier you do it, the better. Right? So, what happens is when we neglect something, it grows. It becomes bigger and bigger. Not only that, it will begin to control you. Instead of me controlling it, now it is controlling my life. It has acquired its own life and existence. That's why remember what Jesus said in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, verse 15. He said, the time is fulfilled. Remember? The time is fulfilled. The kingdom of God is at hand. Repent and believe in the gospel. The time is fulfilled. The word in Greek is kairos. Kairos means now. Don't delay it. Do not procrastinate it. Repent now. Fix your life now. Don't postpone it. Right? If you postpone it, you are going to have a hard time. So Jesus had that idea about the inner healing. He was very insightful about it. Right. Now, back to our topic. Now, therefore, one has to become honest about one's past. Even though it is painful, as I said a while ago, remember, truth hurts before it liberates. Truth hurts before it sets me free. Truth hurts before it frees me. It's painful. So we don't want to face pain. We are running away from that painful experience. Now, if one is running away from pain, one is equally running away from God. Then you will never experience God in that experience. You will never encounter God. You are running away from your past experiences, especially painful experiences. Then equally you are also running away from God. Now you need to understand, the good news is this. Pain is always at the service of life. Pain is always at the service of life. Pain purifies your life. It's a purifier. Why? Why do I say it is at the service of life? Let's say you are going to drink, now you have tea time, right? Later, you are waiting for it, I can see. Right? You are anxiously, eagerly waiting for your tea time, don't worry. I will finish it very fast. And let's say you are going to drink your tea, right? Let's say it's so hot, boiling hot, right? You felt it immediately. What would you do? Would you continue to drink it or would you stop immediately? You stop and you wait. You see, it saved your life. The pain, you felt the pain, physical pain, right? In your tongue and in your lips, etc. Therefore, you stop. Provided, let's think like this. Let's say God had not created pain, right? This is boiling hot like lava. You keep drinking it. And eventually it will destroy all your internal organs, etc. You are not aware, but you don't feel any pain. Because you don't feel any pain. If we don't feel pain, there will be more accidents. You would lose your hand, legs, you don't feel anything. It's okay. Even if you lose both your legs and hands, you don't feel anything. Right? So now, could you not see not only the physical pain, certainly physical pain is at the service of life, then we protect our bodies, we are careful. Spiritual pain is also at the service of life. Then, when you have, let's say, a very painful experience or a past incident, it gives you an opportunity for you to get closer to God. Say, for an example, today, by this time, some of you are having, let's say some of you are having 50 inner wounds. How many? 50, 50. right? Or wounds in the soul. That's the expression by St. Augustine. Not Father Augustine, St. Augustine of Hippo, right? Both of them are very important for us, by the way. Now, let's say you are having today 50 inner wounds when you came here. Well and good. You have 50 opportunities to get closer to God. Very good. Let's say by tomorrow you would have 1,000 wounds, or you would encounter 1,000 painful experiences. How many opportunities are you going to have by tomorrow then? 1,000 opportunities. You see? 1,000 opportunities for you to rely on God and to experience His healing power. So every crisis in life is an opportunity for spiritual growth. Keep that in your mind. Every wound, every inner wound is an opportunity for spiritual wound. Not only when it comes to our personal lives, but also, societal crisis. The crisis we are having now as a nation is a very good opportunity for us to look back at ourselves, change our ways, change our thinking and our attitudes and some of our policies, etc. It's a golden opportunity. Either we can take it seriously, we can miss it. That's a different matter, that's a different thing. But every crisis is an opportunity from the Christian perspective. Now, my wounds, now this thing also put in your mind, understand properly. My wounds are also the wounds of other people. They also become the wounds of other people. Why? Therefore, ultimately, wounds are never private. They are not private. Because, for an example, if I am a wounded person, and if I am not doing anything about my inner healing, I tend to wound other people. I tend to inflict pain on other people. I can't help it. You see, what I am truly, let's say if I am a broken person, it radiates. You can't hide it. What I am deep down will radiate. Right? I can't fool other people. So that's why my wounds are also going to be the wounds of other people eventually. And also the wounds of other people are also going to be my own wounds. Because if I live in a society that is broken, that is wounded, and you are living in such a society, right? You should not have any illusion about it, right? And if other people are wounded, they are also going to wound you, right? You can't escape. Because when you live in a broken society, that spirit you will also somehow absorb. You can't help it. That's why we have a responsibility. So keep that in your mind. My wounds are also the wounds of other people, and the wounds of other people are also my own wounds. And the other truth is also true. When I am in the process of undergoing healing, I also radiate a healing presence onto other people. Can you follow it? When I am in the process of healing my own brokenness or my inner wounds, I am also radiating, communicating that healing presence into other people. So therefore, my healing is also the healing of other people. That's why we have a responsibility. If I don't, can you not see the implication of that? If I am not doing anything about my own situation, my own miseries, my own brokenness, I am doing a great damage to other people. I am a dangerous person. I become a dangerous person. Knowingly or unknowingly, directly or indirectly, I am going to make the lives of other people miserable. Is it not what you have been doing so far very successfully in your life? What do you think? Right? Right? We can't help. We are going to influence each other for better or for worse. That can't be helped. Right? In a constructive way or in a destructive way, we always influence each other for better or for worse. So that's why we have a responsibility. You cannot say, well, it's my problem, it's none of your business. whether I undergo healing or not, you should not be concerned about it. No, it's not that innocent. If you have that attitude, you can do something like this. If there are some islands around Sri Lanka, no one has inhabited so far, you can go to such an island and dwell there, stay there until the day you die. Then no problem. So you can live with your wound. But if you are living in a family or in a society or with a community, whether you like it or not, it's going to affect other people. Right? Not only that, it grows, it acquires its own life. It happens like this. You become what we call in psychology, split personality. Or you experience self-division. Self-division is like this. Say, for an example, you had a very negative experience. This is true with regard to with regard to children who have undergone sexual harassments. Let's say that child had a terrible experience of sexual harassment, right? It was so painful, so unbearable, and the child did not want to share it with her or his teachers or parents. The child, what did he do? Usually I said, repress it, right? Not only that, it acquires its own life. It grows bigger and bigger, that painful experience, right? Then what will happen in the child, in his personality? It will branch out. It will acquire its own life. Then, child has two different persons. That is the meaning of split personality. Or there is self-division. There is someone child does not know in him or in her. It's a bit like if you had watched this great movie, Lord of the Rings. It's a novel by J.R.R. Tolkien. You have watched that, I'm sure, right? The Lord of the Rings. There is a character, Gollum, remember? He would talk to himself. There are two persons within him. The real Gollum and another one. We call him Shadow. Two persons. Why two persons in that, let's say, in that example of the child? That unaccepted portion of his life will become another person, not biologically another person like a branch of a tree, but a psychological reality. So there are two people. So that is the problem. The solution is very simple. You need to embrace that part of you. Especially when you are undergoing something unpleasant, something very painful, something very hurting. Always keep this in your mind. Very simple solution. Embrace that part. Welcome that part. Befriend that part. Because it's part of you. Not only that, God has accepted that part also. Therefore, why can't you accept that part of you which you hate? Right? Embrace that part, befriend, welcome that part, stay with that part. Then you become again wholesome. You become one person. It's like that branch, right? It was branching out. Now you are welcoming that branch. Now it is leaning towards you. And then eventually that branch and the main stump become one reality. You become one person. That's the psychological wholeness. No matter what had happened to you in the past, no matter the kind of negative experiences you had undergone, you are capable of healing them. In fact, you should remember this truth until the day you die. What has happened to us so far in our lives is, if you measure it statistically, right? If you use a statistical analogy, what has happened to you, I'm talking about all the negative experiences, is only 10%. 10%, I don't mean something else, someone else, don't get me wrong, right? 10% means it's only a small portion, right? Is only a small segment of our life. And 90% of it is what you are going to do with what has happened to you. Can you follow me? What had happened to me, all the negative experiences, all the brokenness, all the wounds, right? All the losses, all the frustrations and disappointments are only 10%. It's a small portion. And how I am going to respond to what had happened to me, or what I am going to do with what had happened to me is 90%. You see, it's not what happened to you that is decisive. No. It is how you are going to interpret it, or how you are going to understand it, and how you are going to respond to it. That is the most important part. Can you see? What had happened to me, it's not the most important thing. How I am going to understand it, and how I am going to respond to it. That is the most important or the crucial thing about human life. Right? And there are no wounds that cannot be healed with the help of God, actually. That is one of the meanings of when we say everything is possible with God, right? Nothing is impossible with God. That is the meaning. There is no wound that God cannot heal or overcome. Now, before we talk about God part, let's little bit try to understand our own situation. Now, there are, you see, when it comes to psychological problems, the main reason is this. Psychological problems are due to disturbed and broken relationships, largely. Ultimately, all our psychological problems and imbalances are due to broken and disturbed relationships. And also the solution to all these problems are actually restoring and mending these broken relationships. So the healing is a matter, never an individual thing. It's not, I can heal myself. No. It's also happen in and through a community, in and through human relationship, in and through a network of human relationship. We need other people. When it comes to healing, we need each other. Like for an example, if you have a very good friend, let's say you have a great friend, with that friend, you could say anything without thinking twice, anything under the sun. Any foolish thing you could share, any corny joke you can share with that person, you will not be ridiculed, you will not be judged severely. Friendship on that level, not mere, you see, I'm not talking about office acquaintances. True friendships bring healing. That's why when you have a problem, we think of some of our intimate friends, right? Some of our best friends. Friendship brings healing. But you should be able to say anything, talk anything, and share anything with that person. I don't know whether you have such a friend. Some people have in their marriages, their wife or husband could be such a friend. Then you don't need actually extra counseling, because your marriage itself brings healing to you, or your friendship. That's one. I don't know your situation in life. You think whether you have such a friend, with someone with whom you could say anything, you can talk anything. Remember there was a qualification for that, without thinking twice. Why? If you have to think twice, what's the problem? Let's say you have this friend, you have a problem. You are thinking, shall I say this, shall I not? Should I say this, should I not? What's the problem? You don't totally feel at home with that friend. But with some friends, we don't have to think twice. Anything that would come to your mouth, you could simply utter it. Right? You know that you will not be judged severely. You will not be ridiculed by your friend. That's one way. And also another way is, let's say you are doing in your life something that is really meaningful to you. You are enjoying it. Not for the sake of its money or how much you earn. You take pleasure in simply doing it. If you earn money, that's secondary. Right? It can be a hobby or whatever. It depends. And if you are doing something you really like, you enjoy, you are passionate about, that is also an experience of healing. Problem is, in the modern world, we don't have such people. Most of the time we have to do things for the sake of money. Most of the time the jobs people do, even the educated ones, right? That's called actually in economics underemployment. You are doing it, you are also getting a salary. The salary may be also big, but you don't really enjoy it. You don't find it very meaningful, right? There is no pleasure. You have to do it for the sake of survival. Then you become psychologically imbalanced, definitely. Yeah. On the other hand, maybe you are not earning much, but you are enjoying what you are doing. Then you are healthier. You become healthier. So that's very important. You have to examine. Right? Let's say you like orchids. Right? You are enjoying it. You find it meaningful. Then you don't need extra counseling. That itself is an experience. That itself is an experience of healing. So you need to examine whether what you are doing is meaningful for you. It can be anything, it doesn't have to be, a world-shattering thing, grand thing that which will win Nobel Prize for you. Not that sense, right? Just to give you an example, I had a friend when I was studying abroad. He is the son of the biggest bicycle industry. They had a monopoly of bicycle. They had factories, offices everywhere. And he was the only son. When his father died, the father wanted him to continue the business. You know what he did? After a few weeks after the death of the father, he sold everything, all the factories, everything. And people thought this guy is crazy, But, he started a greenhouse. And he told me, his name was Francis, he told me, what I like even as a child, not these bicycle factories and industry. Of course, they are billionaires. He said, no, I love plants. He wanted to, of course he earned little, but he was so happy I could see him. He had become younger and he had lost weight, and then he looks very shining, bubbling. You see, he started doing something he truly enjoys. Before he did it, because of his father, and they had a big enterprise, big industry to protect, etc. But he was not truly happy. So that is very important. What you are passionate about, you should make a profession out of it. What you are passionate about. Let's say you are so crazy about playing the violin, right? Violin. You like to be a violinist. That should be your, profession also. Or you like writing poetry or whatever. That's very important, right? You need to find some meaning, some meaningful pleasure, some meaningful enjoyment in what you are doing. Such people don't actually undergo a lot of psychological problems, no. Even though they may have some financial problems here and there, but they have a purpose for life. They have a clear goal in life. They know what to do with their lives. That's very important, because clarity in life is a strength. You are clear. You want to be let's say a planter, or you want to be a violinist, you want to be a writer. Very clear. Clarity is always a strength. Very important, right? Friendship and what you are, pay attention to what you are doing. The things you do, household chores, it can be or whatever. Whether you find them meaningful. If not, how to make them meaningful. So that's very important. Next thing is praying. Prayer praying is healing actually. If you remember, I can give you two examples. In the first Samuel chapter 1, there is this famous woman, Hannah. Remember Hannah? Right? Hannah was the mother of a great prophet. Who was the great prophet? Samuel. And Hannah did not have children at the very beginning. So he went to they did not have the temple. They had a small They had this kind of a sanctuary. There was that priest Eli. Hannah went, then she was crying and crying and crying like a crazy woman. In fact, the priest Eli thought, she's drunk, right? Early in the morning. Like, and then the Eli approached her, and then she said, no, my lord, I am not drunk. She said, I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. That's the exact expression. I have been pouring out my soul before God. You see, another name for prayer is soulfulness. 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 Soulfulness means you open up your innermost self, your true self to God. You say, this is me. It's not 90% of you or 80% of you or 50% of you. No, 100% of you, you should open up before God. So that's what Hannah did, pouring out my soul, whatever was inside, boiling in her, struggling in her. She was able to open up 100%, totally. After doing that, she felt okay, normal. Her countenance fell. And it says she went home, ate, and she was normal. Right? So that is an experience of inner healing. Yeah. So that's why in the ancient time, they did not like, I remember my grandmother, who was a Catholic. You see, they did not go for counseling sessions. There were no psychiatry, nothing. Whenever they had a problem, I remember, she would go to the church, she would cry, pray, and she's okay. She will come home, back to normal. You see, you don't have to spend any money for that, right? That was, they would pour out whatever the pain they had, the frustration with the husband and children, whatever, to God, and then you would come home normally. That was what discovered by Freud also, Sigmund Freud. He called it talking therapy, talking cure. He realized, let the patient talk whatever the patient wants to talk. After that, the patient is normal. You are back to your normal rhythm, you see. So praying is an experience of healing. Praying means in that sense, right? So that's why those who pray are psychologically healthier than those who do not pray, in that sense. Pray means in a deeper sense. When you are in communion with God, when you can say anything to God, anything and everything. Such people are healthier than people who do not pray. Now you can see it from a very simple example, in Sri Lanka especially. When men means male, when they have problem, most of them would go for drinks. They would drink with friends. And they would suppress the problem. Women, what do? They would go around the village and talk about the husband and all the problems. Of course, all the villagers know about the problem. But good thing is, she comes home very light-hearted. Right? Now everybody knows about the problem of the husband. That's a different thing. Right? I think it's a good punishment for the husband. Right? But she would come home, relaxed, light-hearted. So who is doing the healthier thing? The woman, psychologically. She does not have to spend any money. She does not have to buy drinks or smoke or anything. No. Right? That's why psychologically, women tend to be healthier than men. Not all, mostly. Because women talk more than men about their personal problems. Men would talk about cricket, about women, about politics, other topics. Never about personal issues. Never about what is inside their soul. Women would talk more about themselves. Their problems with their children and the husbands and other things, right? Household problems. So in that sense, women have some strengths. Inner strength. So men can also do that, actually. Whenever man has a problem, he should go to someone whom he can trust and then open it up. Or pour out his soul like Hannah. Right? That's one example from the Old Testament. And from the New Testament, we have a great example Remember Jesus on the night, right? He knew that tomorrow he will be crucified. He went to the Gethsemane, Garden of Gethsemane, and what was mentioned by the gospel writer, Jesus says, my soul is sorrowful even unto death. Remember? Soul, exactly the word, suke in Greek. In the Hebrew word was nephesh. Suke means innermost self. My soul is sorrowful even unto death. Meaning to say, Jesus poured out what was happening in his deep soul, deep down. He told Abba, this is my problem. I am afraid. You see, I am shaken. Right? I am in anxiety. He was honest about his situation. And if you read the text, it says, in both the Gospel of Mark and Matthew, it says, after that struggle, Jesus became strong and Jesus told his disciple, let's go. My betrayer is at hand. Remember? That means at the very beginning he was shaking. He was not very sure what to do. But as a result of praying again and again, he got determined. He got strength to face the betrayer of Jesus. You see? So praying in that sense, pouring out your soul, is also an experience of healing. Healing gives you inner strength. You feel stronger. Then you are capable of facing whatever the challenge you have to face. Inner healing gives you interior courage, strength. Even for an example, let's, with the same understanding, let's try to understand the phenomenon we call anger. Right? Now some of you are, I can see, getting angrier and angrier. Now anger, this is how you should look at it from this perspective. Anger makes you decisive, courageous. Anger also gives you a lot of wisdom, magnanimity. Like let's say there is a situation of injustice. Then you are angry about it, but of course you should not stop there. And then you think of how to respond to this situation creatively. How to respond to this situation of injustice. It could be in your personal life or on a societal level. Then it becomes an opportunity for you to become creative, decisive, courageous. Right? In the life of Jesus, there were many moments of anger. Right? And people like Mahatma Gandhi, but creatively they responded to it. Right? So anger is also at the service of our spiritual growth. If you analyze it properly, it is always at the service of your growth. It gives you a fantastic opportunity for you to look at your life, especially to recognize the history of your anger. Why am I angry? As to why I am angry and what is the root cause of this anger. Right? It gives you eventually wisdom. Right? So that's why people who were angry in the past became eventually great creative minds. Because they wanted to change the situation. They wanted to remedy the situation. Right? So keep that in your mind. Anger also serves you. Anger makes you a better person if you know how to tame it. Now, the point is this. In your life, if there is something you cannot accept, there is no way you can change it. Forget it. Whatever you cannot accept, there is no change. There is no healing actually. That's why in the Bible also, remember in the Old Testament as well as in the New Testament, the divine revelation says, humans are sinners. Remember, King Solomon said famously, there is no one who has not sinned. Once you accept that reality, we are sinners, you are capable of overcoming it. But if you do not accept it, you will forever be enslaved by sin. You will forever be a slave of sinful tendencies. One has to accept. right? So, we cannot change anything unless we accept it. No matter what it is, no matter how painful it is, one has to accept it. If you are not accepting it, let's say something had happened to you, or you have done something to another person, you have done a great injustice, but you are not accepting it, what will happen? It means you are not loving yourself. You don't love. If you don't love yourself, you can never undergo healing. Say for an example, a very simple example like this. Let's say there is a chain smoker or a drug addict. This person has been taking drugs for the last 10, 20 years. Which means he may be a good person. As a person, he may be kind and very considerate. But the problem is, you see, he is or she is destroying his life. Can you not see? Every sin is self-destructive, right? He or she is destroying his or her life. Therefore, that person does not love himself. If you truly love yourself, if you love yourself means if you love your life, you should change. You know, this is not good for me. This will ruin my health. This will also destroy, waste whatever the money I have for my family members. If he or she continues to do it again and again and again, that means that person does not love oneself. Right? And if you do not love yourself, you can't love others. No. No way. Because you are not taking care of yourself. Even though you may be a kind person, naturally, but you are not taking care of yourself. And if you are not taking care of yourself, how could you take care of others? It follows. Therefore, if that person says, no, I love my family, my wife, my children, well and good, first thing you should do, you have to stop it. That means he made a decision to love himself or herself. Yeah. You see? So no change, no healing. So keep this simple rule. Whatever you cannot accept in your life, you cannot experience healing, or you cannot heal yourself. Right? If you are running away from that problem, that experience, that painful situation, you would never experience healing. You are running away from life. You are running away from life means you are also running away from God. Then one day you are going to die. If it is your attitude, you are going to die without knowing yourself. You would never know who you are. Why? Because you never confronted yourself. You never embraced yourself. You never accepted yourself. Right? Now, there is another very short way to solve this problem. Now, remember, a while ago I mentioned, no one in this world, no one could say that I have never experienced the love of my parents, right? Even a little bit we have experienced. That's why we are here still, right? Breathing, eating, living, kicking, etc. Now, how do you experience the little bit of love you had? You are from your parents, right? From your mother and father. And how did they get their capacity to love your mother and father? How did they get it? From whom? From their parents, from your mother's father and mother's father and mother, and father's father and mother. And how did they get it? Your grandparents. From their parents. And those parents, how did they get it? From their parents, right? When you trace it back like this, right? They learn to love a little bit, even though it's limited, of course, from their parents, and they learn it from their parents, etc. When you trace it back, you will reach a point, you will know eventually humanity, humans, human race, human family got that capacity from a great lover, a grand lover. Who is that lover? God. there has to be a lover ultimately. There has to be someone that's the source of love, God. Therefore, through humans, what we are getting is a glimpse of God's love through our parents and our parents from their parents, etc. It's God love in and through humans. Now, when God's love filters into the human level, it becomes limited naturally. Automatically, it gets limited. Right? Therefore, human love is, you have to keep in your mind, always finite, limited. Only God's love is infinite, limitless, boundless. Now, if we get confused about the two, as we grow older, keep this in your mind, we must rely and depend more and more on divine love. It does not mean we don't need human love, we need, but the trick is, the secret is more and more on divine love. Then when you experience some inadequacies with regard to human love, you will not be complaining. You know, human love, then you would know human love is necessarily limited. Right? And also you begin to look at yourself from the way God looks at you. You begin to love yourself, in other words, the way God loves you. You begin to accept yourself the way God accepts you. So that is the ultimate level of healing. Then you would not be complaining about if your husband or wife or children are not taking care of you or loving you. It's a reason to be sad, but you would not make a big fuss about it, because you are depending on another, if not this infinite source of love, which is the love of, reflect about them, think about them, ponder over them, and after that, it's not simply a lesson. You need to live it out. You need to live it out. Then your life will be very different from what you had been doing so far. Thank you very much. May God bless you all. Thank you.